Hello, Yuki Bennett. So here we are, an explainer video for Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. So I introduced this a little while ago because I thought it was a brilliant song, and it's quite a simple song, but there's this one little bit in it that's really cool where you play some bar chord shapes and you move them up and down. And some people struggle with it and have found easier versions of the song. Now, I have kind of analysed it, if you like, this Jim's songbook version. And Jim's songbook is a great resource, and it's an open resource. Just put Jim's songbook in on Google and you'll find it. And there's a lot of good versions, ukulele versions of the songs, and a lot of them have been adapted to make it simpler to play on the ukulele, and adapted obviously to the keys that are more convenient. But for the most part, most of them are really good. Now, when I do my song sheets, generally I'll listen to the song, play along with it, and I'll play along with it on the original instrument, be it a piano or guitar, to make sure it's correct, and then I'll work out how to adapt that for ukulele. Not always. Sometimes I will use just the versions that are out there because they sound good and they're simple and they're easy enough to use. But on this particular one, I was looking to, in my advanced class, because I've got two classes, introduce bar chord shapes and how you can move them up and down and make some really cool versions of the chords you're already playing, like a C and a B. So I'm going to go over the different versions and the pros and cons, and give you some idea of why I got the version that I've got. So if we look at Jim's version to start with, it has got the little link in there, the C7, shape 2, B7, B flat 7, A7 at the top. So in the actual song, if you were just playing it straightforward, how it has written in the verse for Jim's, it would be G, B7, then a C, then an A. Just playing them all straight, four strums, perfectly fine. Sounds pretty good. If you're singing and playing that, no problem at all, perfectly fine. It's exactly the same as what I do in my version, except for I've put the little run in there, which he's put at the, or I say he, is put at the top here, C7, shape 2, B7, B flat 7, A7. So when you listen to the song, there's this nice little run going between. It's after the C, and then it goes as a B flat, a B, and an A chord. Now, the version that they've suggested here for the run is actually starting on a C, because it does start on a C, but then swap into a barred C7, which you'll see on the side here is C7 shape 2. So this one here is barred on the 3rd fret, put the first finger on the 4th fret, and that's a C7 shape 2. You play that one, bring it back one, that's a B flat 7. You can see that on the diagram above, and above that is the B7, and eventually it will be an A7. It's suggested on here, you see it says barred run at the top here, my cursor is wiggling around, barred run, C7 shape 2, B7, B flat 7, A7. So that's the suggested part, which is different to the way that I'm familiar, or the way that I've written that out on the sheet, but it works, it's effective, it would work quite well there. And then they put the words that these occur on evening and Frisco lines. It actually occurs after every C chord in those verses, but they've suggested it on those lines. And they've also suggested, this is a good bit of advice, is if you're struggling with the bar, try the B7 shape 2, which is an E minor. So a different way of playing B7, you take an E minor, move it up one. That's an alternate way of playing a B7. So you could go G, instead of playing the bar, play the E minor up one shape, then a C, then the A, omitting the barred run. So if you don't want to learn the barred run, or if you're not quite there with your ability and you're playing, if you're still kind of trying to learn your way around the basic chords, ignore the barred run. It's really only for more advanced players, which is why I introduced it in my advanced class. But if you do like the song and you want to play it, then this version worked quite well. The only problem I have with it is when it gets to the chorus, which it should go G to E major, not G to E minor. If you listen to the song, the melody line, it has a lift in it when it gets to that part. And the idea is that the E minor is substitute for the E major to give it that lift, and we call it a major lift. And Steve Cropper, who part wrote this, was quite well known for putting major chord substitutes in his songs. Instead of using the normal minor chords that are in the key, he would substitute with major chords, and it would give it quite a unique sound, and I think it adds a lot of soul to it, having that variation. So for me, it just doesn't sound, it sounds a little bit more bland, or a little bit more well, not authentic with the E minor in it. And I'll just give you an idea of with the chord there. So this is the chord G to E minor. Now put that major in it, you'll hear it's very clear. And I put that with the line, sitting on the dock of the bay. Now put it with the major, sitting on the dock of the bay. Now you can hear that it has that lift to it, and it's really nice. It adds something to it. For me, it needs to be an E major. Now if you're struggling with E major, which is a bar on the 4th fret, and you can then put the little finger on the 7th or not, or just do it straight down the 3 notes, you could substitute it with an E7. So major chords are quite often substituted in ukulele with 7th chords. Quite often you'll see a G7 instead of a G, just because it's easier for the changing, and it's an easier chord. On when you go to a G7 to an F, for example, it's an easier change than a G to an F, because you have to move your fingers around a bit more. So E7 is quite a common ukulele chord as a substitute for an E, which is absolutely fine. That would fit it better than the E minor. Sitting on the dock of the bay. So you can hear that still has the lift to it, because it's got that major sound within the chord. Now looking at the original music, or a proper professional chart if you like, where it's got a lot more information, a lot more detail, a lot more accurate. We've got our intro, which is 4 lots of G, dum 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 dum, which is how it starts, which is just a rolling G chord. And then you've got this information here. It tells me the key, it tells me the chords above, it tells me the beats in the bar, and it's got the words underneath, and it's even got the rhythm for me where that run occurs. So you can see it's not a B7, it's a B chord. It's actually a B chord. So instead of a B7 bar in it across the 2nd, and then playing that finger on the 3rd fret, which is a B7, it's actually a fuller shape. Now you can still use the E minor up one, just don't play the 1st string and you've actually got a B. Play the 1st string, you've got a B7. So you don't actually have to do anything that much different to Jim's anyway there. You can go G chord, B, which is the E minor moved up one, or bar it, then C, you can miss out the run and do the A, and as you can see, it actually lines up with what Jim's doing, apart from he's done that run separately as a C7 shape. When you actually can see in this music here, it's actually on after the C, it's the B chord, and it's just dropping it. It's B, B flat, then an A chord. And if you can play that extra bit of rhythm, you just get so you can just play a B flat, let it ring, A chord, or however you feel comfortable with that. It's just literally a B flat, and an A, and that's the difference. You're going to go G, B, C, and then the A. So it's this bit that's tricky, but you don't have to bar it. Like I said, you can do that simpler shape, which is shown in Jim's. So they line up with each other a little bit. They're a little bit different, and it's kind of adapted a little bit differently on Jim's with the 7th chords. So if we look at the chorus, we can see it's a little bit different in Jim's. It's a G and an E minor. Well, actually, this one is suggesting it's G and E, which is right. It's actually how it goes in the song. It's an E major. It's a G chord, then an E major. Well, there's a number of ways you can play an E major. You can substitute it for an E7, because E7 is based on a major chord. So that would be G, E7, and it's just an alternate version of playing E if you're struggling with the bar. I like doing it with the higher pitch version. There's the 4th fret barred. You could just bar it across the 4th. You could just have all 3 fingers across there. You could put that one. There's lots of versions of E. It's whatever you're most comfortable for an E, however you play an E. But there's a G. We'll just do the E7 for now. That is G, E, G, E, G, A, and then G, E again. So that's actually how it goes. That's actually how it goes in the song. And this chart's been done in a way that's obviously quite concise. It's actually only 2 pages because we don't have all the melody written down. If we go one step further, like the actual music score, so if you were going to buy it online, $4.75 for the proper official sheet music, which has got obviously the copyright and the license for it. There you go. There's the piano score. It's a lot more intricate, a lot more detailed. There's the G chord. It's got the guitar chords written above it because there is a guitar in it. And then you got the G chord. You can see the B comes in slightly earlier than the bar as well, so it lines up with sun. So you got G. There's the B chord. There's the C chord, and there's our sequence: B, B flat, and A. You can see they're actually B, not B7 chords, not C7, B7, B flat. So this is actually how it goes, and then that's a lot more intricate to read. As a ukulele player, that's just like you don't need any of that. If you know the song, you kind of just need a version to follow. So my version is based on that. It's based on the original music with the correct changes and the correct bits in the right place. But obviously I realise those bits make it harder to play, but it is harder to play because it's actually in the song. So what you would do is just eliminate the B and the B flats after every C, making it nice and easy. So there's your G chord, there's a B chord, which you can do as an E minor. You can do the C, ignore the B, B flat, and just play A on comes. Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes. Or you can put it in, sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes. So you can put that little run in. It's a little bit harder. Watching the ships roll in, then I watch them roll away again. It's a lovely little link. It follows his word, away again. It follows his singing as it goes down to that A chord. So it's a lovely little link. But I realise that playing these bars and playing these little intricate bits are a little bit more tricky when you're not familiar to it, not familiar to the technique, which is why when I introduced it a while ago into I kind of use it as an example of playing bars and playing those shapes. Regardless of whether you're doing whichever version you're doing, whether you're doing gyms or not, you should really try and get your head round those chords. You know, a barred version of B7 and barred version of B, because it enables you to sort of add an extra layer, level of difficulty into your playing, and enables you to play songs that you might not be able to play before, or play them more correctly anyway. So looking at my one in the chorus, I actually follow the original. I do GE, and mine's obviously a lot simpler. I think mine's simpler than Jim's as well, really, because although I've got that B, B flat, A in it, if you just eliminate the B and B flat, you've just got the simplest version you could do. But it is correct in the chorus. So you've got the G dot, sitting on the dock of the bay, watching time roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. So you can hear I'm playing just a G and an E chord. Now I am playing it like that, but you could easily do it as an E7. Sitting on the dock of the bay, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Okay, so that's obviously that's the chorus part. It's more so you can see why I've done what I've done. I've tried to make it as accurate to the original song, but keeping that bit in there that I think makes the song sound really interesting and really nice. And if you learn those the B chord, even if you do it as an E minor up one and can move that down, it just adds a really nice layer to it. If you're finding it too complicated or too tricky to move your fingers out quick, you just ignore the B flat. You just play the A. And you can do this with a lot of sheets. So you don't have to separate it out and have it on a section, different bit. If you know what bits to ignore and what bits to play, and you learn to do that, then when you're playing with groups and you're playing songs that are a little bit tricky, you can literally just, I'm not quite sure, but keep the rhythm going, keep on the chord that you've been playing, skip the odd chord in here. When you're part of a group, it won't really matter too much. People will be covering these sounds. And this is the other thing is, you don't have to worry about trying to learn every intricacy and every detail. Just pick and choose the ones that you think, oh, I really like that, that's really nice, I'd like to learn that, I love this song, I'd love to learn how to do that, and work on it, separate it out, so, practice it over and over again, so when you get to that bit in the song, it makes it nice and easy and you can throw that in. So hopefully that's not been too bad, not too painful. But I do find it a little bit of a struggle when I'm teaching the ukulele club, and there are so many different versions of songs and people are already familiar to different versions, and I kind of am a little bit anal. I like the songs to sound accurate, and I make mistakes or oversimplify or change things here and there, or miss things, so it's not like a massive deal, if you like, if it's a slightly different version or different way of playing. But when it's a song that's got a really cool characteristic as part of the song or part of the makeup of the song, like this with this little rundown, I do feel it's quite important to sort of kind of get familiar to them, or at least make an effort to try and put some of those elements in. Rhythmically, you can just keep it simple, and then when you're following the chord charts, you can choose which ones you prefer to play with on your own. It won't make a difference. But if you're playing along with a song and you were following this chart, it would be bang on to it. And as you can see, my one is actually like the original music, just simplified for ukulele. And Jim's is just a slightly different version. It's not like horrific, it's just different, and it's not quite right to the original song. But if it's just a ukulele you playing on your own, or if you were all using that version and you were playing it that way, it would sound okay. Okay, so hopefully that's helped clear up the differences between the charts. As you can see, it's not quite that simple really when you're trying to work out a song. There's lots of variations, lots of especially when it comes to ukulele, simplifications, and sometimes those simplifications alter the song and take it away from some of the characteristics of the original. Sometimes it's okay, you get away with it and you can play if you're playing it by ear and it sounds all right to you and you're singing it and playing it, no problem at all. But obviously if we're playing it in a group, we all need to be working from the same hymn sheet, they're singing from the same hymn sheet or playing from the same chart in this case. And the idea would really be to try and, from my opinion, is try and get as many of those characteristics that make it sound soulful and really interesting, that original song. And that's using the major chord and using those little links. And not everyone has to play them in the group. We've got a few more advanced players that are capable, that they're the ones that can implicate those. And hopefully me demonstrating how that's played will help you. And there's nothing wrong with Jim's book, it's just different, there's lots of variations, it still sounds interesting. But just to give you another little extra thing, I'm going to put it on my play along, on my ukulele play along. I found a nice version which doesn't have the links in, and it's a sort of simplified version of Dock of the Bay. It's got the actual song and it's got the chords to play along with. So this is a really nice version for you to get used to that idea of playing to those major chords. As you can see, I've stopped it, I've freeze framed it, and because of copyright reasons I can't really play it in the background, but you can see it's got Watching the Tide Roll. This is the chorus section I've stopped it on. I'll mute it and play it for a bit, and you can actually see it goes along the words, you can sing along the words, and it's got all those chords in there. If I go from, this is the chorus, Watching the Tide Roll Away, look, you can see it's an E, you see it's G, and then that end bit, G to A, G to E, wasting time. So I'll put this one in the play along list, and then you've got one you can play along, which is a video, and then obviously I'm going to send out my sheet again. It's up to you which one you decide to do on your own. If it were in the group, I would want to stick to my one because I feel it's more accurate, more correct. Apart from that, hopefully I've I've kind of enlightened some of the reasons why you might want to kind of not oversimplify things, and sometimes if something's easy to play doesn't mean necessarily it's correct. But at the same time, you're free to make up your own mind and decision on what works for you. And I'll see you again soon. Take it easy.